Hey, what's up guys? Perrin here. This is going to be a slightly different video. It's in this new small series of live over-the-shoulder work so that you can see me actually doing this stuff. I know in tasks we usually have like really concise 5-minute videos that still show us actually doing the work, but we've had some requests for longer, more true over-the-shoulder type videos. So that's what we're going to be doing today. This is going to be a live writing exercise, so not everybody who joins TASK has a budget to hire writers, or people might want to write the first 10 articles like we recommend in the course, or sometimes people just want to know how to write SEO content so that they can create examples for their writers to follow. So today we are going to go through the process of researching and writing an informational article. There is going to be another one of these videos, probably, that goes over how to write reviews and roundups. This one, though, is going to be purely informational because it's an easier place to start, and it'll still give you a great idea for the process. So first thing we're going to do, and I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to pause the video because you'll see that I'm going to have to take some notes. First thing I'm going to do is called, or what I call, the crazy tab method. Basically, the idea is we're going to Google the thing that we want to research, and we're going to open as many tabs as possible, and then we are going to trim the fat. So we're going to look at the resources that we came up with, and we are going to delete the ones that don't make sense or the ones that look like they're not very good resources. And then we're going to keep the ones that do make sense and that do look like really good resources. So for this article, we are going to talk about golf swings. I have played a little bit of golf. I'm no expert on golf swings, so I'm coming to the table as an amateur who's dabbled in this thing before, and you'll know if you watch the videos and tasks that like to prepare for this website, or Gail went and played golf and that sort of thing. So I'm coming into this with a little bit of knowledge about golf, but I'm not an expert, and I want to go find more expert opinions. So let's just dive right in here. Golf swing, Googling just a broad term, why not? What I'm looking for here is a combination of videos and articles. So I really like using YouTube as a source, especially for informational type articles, because there's so many videos on YouTube of people doing tutorials and explaining things. It's just a really good place to start. So I'm going to control click some of these, and then I'm going to look at the golf swing from these big brands. Golf Swing Digest, hit straight with the 10 best swing tips ever. That's good. Donald Trump golf swing, don't care. Full swing tips and drills. I like that this one has some drills that we might be able to talk about in the article. Improve ball impact. Charles Barkley's improved golf swing, probably not the best. It's not going to be like this. Something like this could make an article interesting, but I want it to be more general, more applicable. How to address the lack of power in your golf swing. Stuff like this could be good for like a common mistakes or troubleshooting section in an article. So I'm liking that, but you can see basically that like in this first step of the crazy tab process, I'm not being very discriminatory. I'm just opening kind of whatever I see. This free online golf tips.com. This looks like more of a niche site. I'm looking for authority stuff here. So not like quote unquote authority sites, but I'm not looking for niche sites that were written by somebody else. I want to go to the authorities to find the information so that I can relay it to my audience. This is Amazon. It's a product. Why your golf swing changes every time. Maybe we can look at it. Zep Golf, improve your swing, club speed and tempo. I also, when I'm scanning the list, I like looking for things that other articles haven't mentioned yet. So this one has like lack of power. I haven't seen that specifically. This one here is club speed and tempo. We haven't seen that yet, so I'm for sure going to open this one because it may have little bits and pieces of information. And the idea here is that if we go look at all of the source data and look at all of the information that the experts are going in depth, we can curate some of that and we can add our own analysis and our own personal experience to create one good article that talks about everything. One of the issues people always bring up, or questions people always have, is like, well, aren't you just, regurgitating stuff? And no, we're not. We are, first of all, doing the job of curating the best information, which is important, and it's something Google talks about in their content quality guidelines. So just curating good information is a service in itself, and it's useful for a blog as long as you're not copy and pasting or plagiarizing, obviously. We're also going to be adding our own analysis. So if we relay a piece of information, we are not only going to just give that information, we're going to talk about what that might mean for people, what it means in the context of the other article, what we think, what our personal experience has been, and that sort of thing. And then we can add our own personal knowledge. So we might have 3 pieces of information from 3 different experts, and then we can add our own experience into that to create a conversation inside the article. Golf stroke mechanics. Wikipedia is always good. Not only are the actual articles on Wikipedia good, but they will lead you to lots of other great sources. Let's see. Golf Swing Analyzer is probably a tool. It's not going to give us a lot of information. Videos of famous swings I think are great, but they're not going to break it down probably in the way that we want. Golf Swing Tips. It's from Golf Info Guide, with a bunch of hyphens. Probably not the thing that we want. Swing Aid PGA Pro Tips to perfect your golf swing and men's fitness. I can get behind that. Let's see. What else is back here? Golf Swing Analyzer. Lag in the golf swing. We haven't seen an article that talks about lag yet. How to correctly load your wrists. I like this. Golf WRX is one of our competitors that we were looking at when we were doing our research. So let's see. Usually I try to shoot for like 10 or 15 different articles when I'm doing this. And if I weren't talking through a video, I'd be doing this much faster, and I try to keep this process to 5 or 10 minutes. So after that, and these are already playing, I'm going to go search YouTube for golf swing stuff. So let's see, golf swing, and then I'm going to open some of these videos as well. Complete golf swing guide. Most important part of the golf swing. I'm interested in that. I'm gonna pause these. I'm looking for stuff from different channels and authoritative channels, and or stuff with lots of views. So 5 simple steps to a great golf swing. This could be maybe useful. It's from Golf Magazine, which is a good sign. And I think that is more or less a good pool of resources for Crazy Tab Method. What I want to do now, one of the parts of this process I will show you, one of the parts of this process I'm probably not going to show you. I'll pause the video and go do it. It'll take me 10 minutes or so, but it's not worth doing it here because it involves watching these videos, and watching me watch videos is probably not the best use of anyone's time. But before we go watch videos, I'm going to look at these sources and see what I think are good ones. Let's see. So this is really good. Nothing on this page makes me think that I should just delete it or remove it. And what I'm looking for here is like lack of information, bad information, short articles, overly generic information. So like when I saw the solid plain equals no slice, I think that's a little bit generic, but it's kind of interesting. And it makes me want to keep this article for now. Let's look at these. This is one that we would delete probably. How to swing a golf club. This is generic, but I do like this analogy. I've never seen this analogy between like a bowling stance and a golf stance, so I might keep it just for that. I also like this, like, copy this analogy, which is really good. So I'm going to keep this because it has these interesting analogies for other sports, which may or may not be useful. This is from golfchannel.com. So I'm going to keep this probably just because I might be able to watch these videos. Who knows? This is another video. We'll see what that ends up being. Let's see. Wind up all the way back, downswing issues, release it right. This is an example of a source that probably won't be very good. It's like super duper generic information, and it's, you know, 300 words or something. So even though it's from an authority, probably, yeah, let's check the traffic. It's like 500,000 a month. It's pretty good authority. It's not worth our time. This is not a huge authority here. But I like the concept of like why your golf swing changes every time, because some of the videos that we were looking at here talked about consistency, and we might be able to take some of these images and credit this guy with a link or something, because these nicely illustrate what's good and what's bad. We have to be careful though. Like, I don't want to just like grab all these images and write a commentary. I feel like that would be just copying, and we want to write an article that adds to the conversation. We don't just want to rehash stuff. So we'll say, yeah, let's keep it for now. This is a product page, golf stroke mechanics on Wikipedia. We for sure want to keep pro tips to perfect your golf swing. This is and a really good example of a super short article, and you can see this might look long here, but as we scroll down, the URL changes, meaning that these are different pages, different articles, different topic. So you know, obviously we're not interested in a 100-word article, and sometimes you're going to find that on bigger sites like mensfitness.com. Usually, or lots of the time, they're going to be good sources for your article just because they're authoritative, but they also have a habit of writing really short articles and ranking purely on their massive authority. So big sites can get lazy sometimes too. This article is not worth our time. This looks like a kind of a niche site, but it looks old-ish. Too much grip pressure is something that we haven't had before, so I might keep this article around just because I didn't see anything about it. I don't know anything about it. So grip pressure is something that we might need to write about, and it can add that one little chunk of information to our article that can, you know, give us an extra 100 words or something. Left side dominates a golf swing, which is a really interesting concept. Yeah. So these are some good, it's some generic information with some golden nuggets of what I would consider pretty interesting information that I can talk about in my article. How to load your wrist correctly. This is a highly specific, is it a video? Let's see, nothing happens when I click on it, and because I'm writing an article and I care about my words per hour, they're not going to make it easy for me to consume the content. I am going to delete it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go watch these videos. I'm not going to sit down and watch, excuse me, the whole thing. I'm not going to, you know, watch 6 minutes plus 6 minutes plus 8 minutes or whatever. There's no need for me to spend half an hour or 45 minutes looking at or, you know, watching videos straight through. That is a waste of time, and when we're writing for the web, we want to be hitting good word per hour metrics. And every minute we spend researching is a minute we don't spend writing. We still want to do a very good job researching. We just want to be as efficient as possible when we do it. So instead of watching these videos all the way through, I'm probably going to be skipping around. There's like a rule on the internet, I forget where it comes from or who wrote it, but basically like from almost all videos on the internet, you can skip like 25% of the way through, and you know, that'll be where the real information starts. Everything else is going to be just like BS introductory crap. So I'm probably going to do that with all these videos. I'm going to skip the first 25%, and then I'm going to jump around until they are saying something interesting. When they do, I'm going to open a Google Doc and I'm going to take some notes on it so that I can refer to those notes instead of having to like go through these videos and watch them again. Even though I might do that, but mostly I'm just going to be taking some notes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through these videos. I'm going to take some notes. I've got some good resources here. Probably enough to get a solid 1,000 word article that covers the basics plus some interesting other little nuggets. So I'll do that, and then I'll get back with you guys here in a second. All right, I am back. I have taken a bunch of notes and I'm ready to write this article. It's going to look a little bit different on my screen, and that's usually because I like to switch back and forth between my notes and my article when I'm writing. I still have all my sources up here. While I was doing research, the way I wanted to structure this first was to go through like the basics of a golf swing and then to list mistakes in like a separate section. What I ended up doing instead was, or what I was finding in my research, was that it would be easier to talk about good mechanics one by one, like breaking a golf swing down into kind of its component parts, talk about how to do it correctly, and then talk about some common mistakes to avoid. So that's kind of what I have here. So I've got like posture, grip, swing, and impact. And I'll change that to the correct heading. There's going to be spelling mistakes and stuff in here. I was doing it really quickly using all of my sources. I also was looking stuff up as I went. So as I was researching, for example, grip, I found lots of good stuff about golf grip in the resources that I had pulled up before I went to make these notes when I was doing the crazy tab approach. But I didn't find any mistakes, so I just went and found a good video that outlined some grip mistakes so that I could add that to the golf grip section. So that's pretty much what we have going. I'm going to go ahead and dive into the article. If I was going to guess, I'd say it's going to be between like 1,000 and 1,500 words. The thing about golf swing that I realized as I was researching is that there's so much that I don't know, and it would be very easy to write a 10,000 word guide on this, which is something we might do. It's something that might make sense to pay a writer to do, to, go write 4 or 5 or 6,000 words on a really epic golf swing guide if we were going to use it for something like skyscraper content. For the purposes of demonstration, I'm just going to do 1,000 words or 1,500 words or something. So let's get to it. If you're wondering what all this business is, it's just my desktop background. I've got some music going, some lo-fi instrumental hip-hop to help me write. But because I know I'm going to get the comment, I made this background with rain meter. So let's do it. Introduction is the first thing that comes into the article. I don't know if this is going to surprise you or not. I do not write introductions first. I think it's a waste of time. Introductions are usually the most difficult thing to write, and so I never do them. Add space after paragraph, and then one of the things that's going to save me time in the long run is I will click on the paragraph where I added the space, format, paragraph styles, normal text. update normal text to match. That basically means anytime I'm using normal text, it's going to be formatted like this. If you don't do that, if you don't add the extra space, you'll end up hitting enter twice, and it can cause problems when you're copying and pasting to WordPress. So now it adds a little space for me. Let's talk about posture. And we can go through and come up with, and this will be H2 heading in the actual article, right? And then as I'm finalizing the article, what I would do in like editing and revising for something like a posture section, I would go through and make it like a snazzy title that's just a little bit longer and looks a little bit better on the page. So it might be a question like, what's good golf posture? Here, we just want to get words on the page. That's the most important thing. So what do we have here? Golf posture. I'll explain what it is first. In the posture, in the context of a golf swing, posture includes how you stand, the angle of your hips, and the position of your spine. Good. A lot of posture is about comfort. That's something I know from experience, but it's also something other people were mentioning. But bad posture can also impact your game in pretty substantial ways. Here are a few keys. Actually, let's make a question. So, what does good posture look like, and how does it contribute to a great golf swing? Feet. We would make that a snazzier title as we went back through this. Trying to decide if it should be a bullet list or if it should be its own section. Let's see, because I'm not sure. The reason it might be be better as a bullet list instead of a heading with a paragraph is that I don't know if I have much to say about feet. I know I want them to be shoulder width apart, but what else is there to say? Let's see. So let's see. I think instead of going one by one through these, I'm just going to do basics of a good golf posture. Whoops. Your feet should be shoulder width apart, and you should feel balanced with the center of your ass, the middle of your stance, without too much weight on either your heels or the balls of your feet. I'll make this bold. How am I gonna word this? I'm just gonna say waist. Let's make it bold. bend slightly at the waist. Making this a command, it's called imperative, not tense, but imperative tone, I think. But basically, instead of saying like your feet should or your waist should all the time, phrasing it as a command makes it a little bit more actionable and a little bit more interesting. Sometimes you don't want to necessarily do one or the other through the whole article, but it can be a little bit more interesting if you switch it up. Bend slightly at the waist. And at an angle that's comfortable for you and allows your arms to hang freely. Hang freely and allows your club to reach the golf ball comfortably. That's not as specific as I would like. If I was writing a big guide or if I knew I had 3 hours to do this, I might go back and say, you know, what really should your waist be doing? I do have some other stuff about posture that I'm going to talk about in mistakes. So this is a little bit general for my taste, but in the spirit of just getting words on paper, currently it's fine. And we could, you know, add a comment in here or something to go back and find another good resource. That's also something you can research on the fly if it's bothering you. If you feel like it's too general, you can go look up another video, or you can go look up another article. You can go see what expert has to say and put it in. What I prefer to do is just to get all 1,000 words on the page, all 1,500 words on the page, and then maybe mark these for my revision. Back. Your back should be straight but neutral without any major curvature one way or the other. We'll make this bold, and then arms. I'm gonna make this bold. Unbold that. Your arms. I also zoomed in a little bit here, so I hope you guys can see this okay. Your arms should hang almost completely perpendicular to the ground without reaching or pulling forward or backward. So that's the basics of posture. Posture is not nearly as complicated as something like grip or swing. So I know this might appear roughly short. Let's see how many words we got here. We have like almost 200 words. And with mistakes, it's going to be a little bit longer. So I think it's fine right now, and it's good progress. Let's not make it bold. Let's make it heading 3. Posture, mistakes. Back position. We can do heading 4 for this one. Among the most common mistakes, golf posture mistakes are errors in back position, and those can usually be divided, usually manifest into two primary mistakes. The first is something called, make it bold for emphasis, C posture. Put it on its own line also for emphasis. C posture occurs when there is, this is a little bit of passive voice, not ideal. Something I would fix in my revision. If you don't know what passive voice is, look it up, because it'll make your writing a lot stronger. But again, I'm just trying to get words on the page here, so it's good for a first pass. C posture occurs when there is excessive curvature of the back and your hips are tucked underneath your spine. Back looks like, and I'm just adding personality here. Can you guess? The letter C. This is a problem because when you curve your spine that much, it can be difficult to really generate a full backswing or get good core rotation, which can affect all kinds of stuff from club speed to shot control. The second, on the other end of the spectrum, we have S posture. Unbold. This is more, you can think of this more or less as the opposite of C posture. Instead of rounding your back, italics for emphasis, you arch your back and stick your butt out. Adding personality here, kind of like you are twerking. The primary drawback of this posture is mostly discomfort, but this too can cause plenty of control and power issues. Correct the spelling. If I was more disciplined, I wouldn't worry about the spelling, but it drives me crazy to see that red line. Do we fix? Fixing back posture mistakes. I don't want to go all the way down to like a H4 heading, so I'm just going to make this a bold line, and that's fine. Fixing back posture mistakes. Probably the easiest way to fix, and I saw this in a video, so this is not something that I came up with. I thought this was a good technique when I was just like skipping around through back posture stuff in the videos that I found. To fix back posture issues is to purposefully try to put yourself, your spine in those C and S positions. When you find them, exaggerate them as much as possible. When you find them and can feel what the incorrect posture is, it's not the best wording, but we're going for speed here. What the incorrect posture is, shoot instead for a neutral posture in the middle of the two. For bonus points, have a friend take your picture and of a straight back and try to commit that posture to muscle memory by practicing. Commit spelled wrong. Okay, so this is basically the back posture section. 400 words, so we are trucking 400 words in like 10 minutes. So we're at a good pace. And then we have one more thing for posture, which is arm position. But you know what? Like, I really... Let's go ahead and do it. Arm position. What I was thinking here was that I know from taking these notes, I know that what I'm about to say about arm position is also going to be covered in, or at least overlap with, some of the stuff that I'm saying in the grip section. So it may be redundant, but I don't want to only talk about back stuff here and posture because it's not the only mistake that comes with posture. So it's going to be a little bit more comprehensive and a little bit more full if I also talk about arm position. What I'll probably do in this case, because I want to avoid appearing redundant, I'll just mention here to the reader that, like, hey, a lot of the stuff I'm about to talk about also overlaps with grip. That's fine. Another common golf posture mistake is bad arm position. Let's see. Specifically, usually errors of arm position occur when you either reach too far forward or pull the club too far back. This can lead to hooks, slices, and extra loft where you might not want it. Sorry, I almost didn't write that, but I want to make sure that we tie everything back to the experience of playing golf, because that's the most important thing, right? How to fix it. One way to fix bad arm position is to simply let your arms hang down so that they are completely perpendicular to the ground. Hold the club like that, and then move your entire body forward or backward. Now I'm adding in some of my own experience and also just what makes sense in my head if I were doing this, but I also got up in my room and practiced this so that I could kind of relay what I was doing as I was learning, which is where, you know, my own expertise comes in. Okay, let's see. Turn this down just slightly. To line up your club face with the golf ball instead of adjusting the club position by moving your arms. Good enough. We'll talk about it more in the grip section. Oh yeah, and low club speed. Okay. What are we at? 500 words. Good. And how do we format this? Okay. Let's do H2 heading and then talk about grip. Good grip mechanics. H3. Good grip is much less of an exact science than good posture. Here I'm making a transition. I'm letting people know that basically by writing a sentence like this, you're saying, hey, take this with a grain of salt, because what I know about grip from researching it is that a lot of it comes down to personal preference, which is what I'm about to write right now. A lot of golf grip boils down to simple personal preference and comfort. That said, there are actually, let's not write that yet. Let's not talk about mistakes yet. Let's talk about the actual grips before we dive into mistakes. Most golf grips, though, fit into 3 categories. I'll make this ball list again. Overlap grip. So this is a combination of like stuff that I learned in the videos and stuff that I already knew. Overlap grip. Overlap grip, or actually let's change the phrasing of that. In an overlap grip, the pinky finger of your trailing hand overlaps just slightly with the index finger of your, that's not trailing hand, lead hand of your trailing hand. Interlocked grip. An interlocked grip looks a lot like an overlap grip, but instead of your pinky, italics for emphasis, sitting on top of your index finger, your lead pinky, actually let's put these here, your lead and trailing, by the way, are just terms that I picked up when I was researching for how people were talking about you know, the hand or foot or whatever that is in front versus the thing that is in back when you're talking about a golf swing. So I didn't know that terminology before. I picked it up and I started using it because that's what the industry was doing. Let's see how of your finger, your pinky and index finger are intertwined. Bold 10-finger grip. This is what some people would call a basic grip, which I know because I came across that in my research. And it essentially means a grip in which none of the fingers from opposite, in which, what's a good way to explain this? No fingers from different hands interact with each other. Yeah, whatever, that's fine. Probably a better way to say that, but we're getting words on the page, man, so that's good. Into let's see, what do we want to talk about now? Overlap and interlock grips usually. So why overlap or interlock? Isn't it a bit weird to... No, that's dumb. Stop myself from writing something dumb? It's always a good thing. Basically, the idea of using the pinky of one hand to overlapping or interlocking fingers from both hands together is to, and we'll use italics for emphasis here, get both your hands working together as a unit, which can sometimes be difficult with a basic 10-finger grip. Okay. Really though, whatever grip is most comfortable to you, italics for emphasis, is probably the one you should use. That said, there are definitely a few errors you could avoid. Mistakes. What would we use for mistakes up here? H3. Grip mistakes. H3. And I'm actually going to say golf grip mistakes just because I like to use like LSI keywords in my headings, and I'm assuming that golf grip mistakes is probably close. And I want a little buffer paragraph here, so I'm going to use this, modify it slightly. Actually, this is fine. This is fine for now. Here are a few of the most common. Okay. bullet list, bold, high club position. H3, actually, you know what? Let's not make this a bullet list. Let's make this just a straight up H4 heading. That's consistent with what we were doing. And each of these kind of deserves its own subsection. High club position. If your club position is too high, the angle of the golf club will be super shallow. In other words, semicolon, because we want to connect two highly related independent clauses. The club will point straight up your arm. Which, while it might make intuitive sense, can reduce your ability to generate power because the angle of your wrist hinge is essentially non-existent. How to fix it? High club position can be fixed with posture. So this is where I'm overlapping with what I was writing before. High club position can be fixed with posture. If you execute the can fixed, yeah, with good posture, namely with good arm position. And I'm just gonna, there's no reason to reskin this cat. See section on arm position above. And we could even add a jump link here and that'd be fine. High club position. Turning your trailing hand over. Another common mistake is to turn your trailing hand, that's misspelled I know, over the club, and it can especially affect your swing if you address the ball this way. Correct spelling here. Leading to hooks or high, weak shots. How to fix it? And this doesn't lead to hooks, this leads to slices. I didn't record. How to fix it? I think it was in one of these videos. Oh. Let me see if I can remember. If I just think for 1 second. Oh yeah. Wait. Okay. Instead of focusing on gripping gripping the golf club, imagine that your two hands are clapping. It might even, I really like using conditional language when I'm writing articles, like might, could, may, because it makes your voice sound less absolute, and it gives you a little bit of wiggle room, and it makes the writing seem flexible. Because and it also gives you a little bit of leeway if you say something that is wrong. It doesn't make you sound like you are expressing it as the end-all be-all authoritative statement that people might take it as. So in general, it makes your writing softer. Okay. It might even be a good practice to let the club rest between your hands while you keep them flat as if you were actually clapping. Some bold for emphasis. If I've already used italics as emphasis, sometimes I'll switch to bold. Then close your hands into a loose grip. Cool. I'm gonna take like a short break to use the restroom and get a drink, but so far we've been writing for 25 minutes or so. And we've got almost 1,000 words. That's a pretty good pace. So we can you know, and we're stopping to talk, right? I'm not writing overly fast here either. I'm breaking stuff down as I'm going. I've already taken some notes. The research process and the note taking was you know, like a 10 or 15 minute process. So far we've got 1,000 words and we spent about 45 minutes on this article. You can see how if you were writing about a less in-depth topic, you could pretty much be done at this point. We're going to keep going though. We're going to finish this article and we're going to probably get around 1,500 words or maybe a little bit over with the notes that we have. Quick break and I will be right back. All right. Got something to eat, got some coffee, picked up my wife, took out my dog, ready to get back at this article. So we were just finishing up the golf grip section, and we have, I think, one more little thing, deep interlock. Let's get right to it. Deep interlock. This is going to be an H3. Deep interlock, let's put it in quotes just because it's not a common term, is when you are using and by the way, like this sort of clunky syntax, usually I would go through and revise stuff like this. Deep interlock is when it's just a little bit, it's not as polished, but we are, you know, as we've said, we're just getting words on paper here. I'm not going to go through and put all of the revision on video, but you can see what I might fix as I call it out as we're going. Deep interlock is when you are using an interlocked grip and you really jam your pinky between your index finger and middle finger, creating an tight grip. Excuse me. Aside from being generally uncomfortable, this grip error can make it, there's that conditional language I was talking about again, easy for your hands to what's a good way of phrasing this? To slip out of slip out of a good position and into a bad one. Okay. How to fix it. This error, let's delete that and say, aside from simply trying to relax and understand that an interlock grip works best when loose, often works best. Want to use some conditional language here. Often works best when loose. You can sometimes correct this error in the same way we corrected the previous one, by aligning your hands as if you were clapping. Semicolon, because we're joining two highly related independent clauses. This typically creates enough distance between your hands that you can't squeeze your fingers together too tightly. Sure. Fix the spelling errors. And I feel like that's good for the grip section. Swing is going to be the next bit. This is, okay, now I know myself, I know my tendencies when I write. So I know when talking about the swing, since it's the most complicated, I have the highest tendency to ramble. So just going into this, I'm going to kind of try to be aware of it. It's going to be a little bit of a tricky section too, because when we're talking about the mechanics of a golf swing, there are two main areas of it, at least in the context of this article. You could break a golf swing down, like the actual swing portion, into like a whole bunch of different things, but in general, for the purpose of this article, I may even smush all of these together. And I think probably what I'm going to do is either do two numbered lists or one big numbered list. We'll see. I'm going to see how it works as one big one, because I think that's probably going to be the most concise. And I have plenty of stuff to talk about here. And we already have a strong word count. So let's just introduce that by talking about more or less what I just said. The elements. I'm going to actually explain that we could talk about this forever, but we're not going to. Of course, if we really wanted to dive into the mechanics of a good golf swing, we could keep ourselves busy for years talking about every tiny detail and analyzing endless famous golf swings. For now, though, let's just talk about the basic process and a few common mistakes. The basics of a good swing. Let's make this heading 3. Let's make it a numbered list, why not? approach. Yeah, I'm gonna smush these into, or address, not approach. Unbold when addressing the ball. Your body should be perpendicular to your target line for most shots. And the ball, actually, let's make this a new sentence. When hitting with a short iron, the ball should be in the center, and as you progress through longer irons and into the woods, the ball should move further forward in your stance, although usually not past your lead heel. 2. Chest rotation. Backswing. Bold. Unbold. Start your backswing with by thinking about, because we're not really swinging back at the same time, right? We are, or swinging our chest before our hands, are kind of swinging at the same time. But thinking about, but this is some advice that I heard from an expert when I was researching the videos. Rotating your chest and allow your hands to follow while keeping the club face more or less parallel with your spine. And that's something I did not know. That's from one of the videos where they were correcting a mistake. Hinge your wrists. As you progress through your backswing, use your trailing wrist to hinge the club into roughly a 90-degree angle in relation to your leading hand. I don't know what the opposite of a backswing is, and I'm on a roll here. I don't want to stop and look it up, so I might try to word my way around it and then make a note for myself if I was going to go revise this. I'm just going to say swing. Why not, right? Swing. Twist with your core and shift your weight onto your front foot as you swing, keeping your lead arm straight and follow through. Let's make this follow through. Allow your shoulders to rotate after impact, and your hands to turn over naturally. This is a little bit general for my taste. As I'm writing this, I'm kind of figuring out that it's really tough to explain mechanical things or like explain a mechanical process, especially without a visual aid. So I was going to say this at the end, but it's a good time to say it now. Probably what an article like this needs, even if it's going to be 1,000 or 1,500 words, is lots of media. So maybe that's an illustration, maybe it's a GIF, maybe it's accompanying videos. They don't have to be yours. You can just put in some YouTube videos. That's totally fine. You can put in YouTube videos and jump to a section, or you can take a little snapshot of a video and make a GIF out of it. There are, you know, obviously ways to do that. Reading this, I don't think I would be able to do it. It's good to have it here for reference, but it for sure needs to be accompanied with by a GIF, and probably the best version of this article that isn't going to be now because we're working under an artificial 1,500 word limit, but the best version of this article, the big 3,000, 4,000 word guide, would be going into much greater detail for each of these. So it's good to keep in mind what the best version of the article is, because I know a lot of people are perfectionists, and if you're writing a 1,500 word article, you have to be able to make concessions. You have to be able to make strategic concessions as you're writing and kind of pick your battles, because we're writing a good article. What it's turning out to be, though, is not necessarily a detailed breakdown of every single thing in a golf swing, but a brief, it's turning into more like brief coverage of the basics or brief coverage of the basics and then common mistakes, right? So that's the angle of our article. And because that's developing as the angle, we don't necessarily need to go into the most possible detail for everything. So in this golf swing section, for example, I kind of view this as the setup for talking about some of the mistakes that are going to follow. Which is totally fine, and I didn't plan that when I started, but I like the way it's turning out, and it's good to understand what the article is doing and what it's leading me to, so that I can create a better article, get it done on time, and not, you know, worry myself too much with crazy details. Okay. Common golf swing mistakes. This is heading 3. Here too, we could spend days talking about golf swing mistakes, since it's more or less impossible to cover every mistake. We're just going to take a look at a few common ones, and then let's add some personality here that may or may not be mistakes. Yours truly is prone to. Just a little bit of personality. It's fine. Let's talk about casting. We're already at our H3 heading, so we're just going to do bold. Casting occurs this is gonna be another one where it's gonna need a video. When your trailing hand pushes the club too much or too soon on your downswing. I have no idea if that's the opposite of a backswing, but I needed the terminology here, and I can just go back and look it up and Control F downswing, but that's what I'm going to use here. When this happens, the angle of your hinge flattens and you lose club speed. Club speed, which can significantly shorten your shots, especially drives. Okay. Sorry if you heard me taking a drink of my water there. Let's see. You can fix this by focusing on holding your hinge for longer and by opening your chest a bit later. Now this could use some formatting, but I just don't think that like one sentence merits a like, you know, how can you fix it? I don't necessarily think that works here, and then we're already past like our little bold heading, so that's fine. Over rotation. When you over rotate your body tends to lean forward and get out in front of the ball. I'm putting that in quotes because it seems to be like a common phrase when I was researching this. This can also shorten your shots. Actually, let's vary this syntax a little bit. At best, this might shorten some of your shots, and at worst, this can totally botch your entire swing. And there's plenty of good examples of this. We might put that in the or put these in as well. To fix this, it's often easiest to concentrate on impact position. We'll talk more about here in just a little bit. If you're do M dash, because if your impact position is good, it almost always means your shoulders, hips, and chest are rotating correctly. Lots of people like to practice this without a ball, which is what I found in my research, because one of the primary causes of over-rotation is often impact anticipation. So this is a relatively short swing section, but it's we've got some good mistakes, we've got some good fixes for people, and I'm actually gonna put these in bold here. Formatting's not super consistent. I would have to go back and maybe think about it a little bit, but just using this would be fine if you didn't want to also. But I'm trying to stick to my word count here, mostly because when we're writing articles for our sites, unless we are shooting for big guides, we do want to keep an eye on like words per hour and articles per day or per week. And so it's just impossible to go over the word count on every single article and still, you know, be productive as we want to be if we are writing all the content for our own site. The obvious exception here is if we're doing a big guide, there is a place for that, if it's a really good keyword or if it's good skyscraper content or something. But for now, though, we're going to work in these arbitrary constraints. And we are going to finish off the last section. Impact position. It's heading 2. Impact position. I've always found, and this is true when I go to the driving range or whatever, which isn't often, but like when I do go to the driving range, I found that the most improvement in my golf swing in particular happens when I focus on impact position and getting that right. So while a lot of this stuff I did not know before researching for this article, I have worked on impact position in an actual golf situation. So and with the help of some experienced golfers, not like a coach or anything, but my friends who are really good at golf and who have played on golf teams and that sort of thing. So this is from my personal experience, and I'm making sure because I have that experience to add it in here. I've always found that focusing on impact position and trying to get it right, of course, is one of the most helpful tweaks you can make to your game. And even if we risk sounding like an expert here, we can address and I like to do this. I like to, if I am a hobbyist and I'm not an expert, I like to say that up front somewhere, like either in like a bio or on the about portion of the site, saying like, hey, we are not golf coaches. We love golf. We love playing golf. We're golf hobbyists. We try to get the opinions of experts, which we do. Actually, I think I might add a section about this somewhere, about how like you can hire experts for cheap just to give you their opinions and stuff. But we're also looking at all of these videos with experts. So it's okay to reveal that you're not an expert. You don't need to be an expert. Part of the authority that you have, which is different than expertise, comes from personal experience, and that's just as valuable if you are a hobbyist who is learning to get better, as it is if you are, you know, a golf coach or a PGA Tour pro or whatever. So just something to keep in mind if you're going to write this sort of thing, which I generally think is highly valuable. I've always found focusing on impact position is one of the most helpful tweaks you can make to your game, because if you get it right, because getting it right requires you to get lots of other components of your swing correct along the way. Here's a here's my favorite. And I'm gonna, we can explain this a little bit better because I didn't find any mistakes about impact position, because like I just typed, impact position is usually the result of other stuff. So I am going to not write mistakes, and I'm going to maybe go into a little bit more detail depending on how many words we have left. We have like 14 words left, so we can just wrap this up pretty soon here. My favorite tip about impact position: when you make impact with the golf ball, your the indicators of a let's say there are two major indicators of good position. Make a bullet list. Your arm is parallel with your lead leg. We'll change this to lead arm. It's straight and parallel with your lead leg. And because we're writing these bullets as if they are lists, so we have a comma and then and the last bullet will have a period on it. Your lead arm is straight and parallel with your leg, and the back of your lead hand, and let's put this in italics, is pointing directly at your target line. If those two things are true, your impact position will usually be solid, along with other stuff, along with lots of the other stuff we've discussed so far. Your body rotation, posture, etc. So we're not even going to put in mistakes. It might seem unbalanced, but it's better than making something up where I just didn't find any like mistakes specific to impact position, because it tends to be the result. Maybe there is, I just didn't find them, so I'm not going to write them. Conclusion. You know what? Like, I honestly don't even write conclusions, so I'm not gonna pretend that I do. I do write introductions. Here's how I like to do introductions. What a lot of people like to do, and what I see on lots of niche sites, is people will make up some creative BS or whatever. I like to use introductions as an opportunity to capture a featured snippet. So I treat my title or my keyword or my query as a question, and then I try to answer it in the introduction. I also think it's really good user experience because it gives people a really short, condensed answer. In fact, when I outsource articles, I call it a CAUF, C-A-U-F, condensed answer up front, because that's what I do. I might have like one fluffy sentence as like the very first sentence, but a lot of times I won't. And I use that space to just answer the question that the user might be asking. And we do that because the more thoroughly we answer things, the better our dwell time is going to be. And there's a misunderstanding about dwell time that it equals time on page, when that's not true. Dwell time is the time between when a user clicks on your page and when they bounce back to Google to look for an answer for that same question. So I like to give them an answer as soon as possible to the question they're looking for in the introduction. So here, people might be asking, like, what makes a good golf swing? A good golf swing can be broken down into 4 basic components: posture, grip, swing mechanics, and impact position. Getting those all of these things work together to create a solid swing. Let's go into each in detail, and now this is all user experience. We're doing what introductions do, which is to let people know what's coming. In detail, actually, that's not what the article does. Let's talk about the basics of each, a few common mistakes, and how we might fix them. All right, so we are, let's see, this is about an hour total time. Let's check the timer. Yeah, like an hour and a half, and we spent a lot of time talking and explaining and stuff, and that includes 20 minutes of research time. So we've gotten like 1,500 words, and we're writing about 500 words every 25 minutes, which is a really good pace. It puts us right at the 1,000 words an hour pace, which is really strong. Before we go, I want to talk about just a couple of things with this article. At this point, I would probably be trying to say I was writing this with the intention of posting it right now. I would be making a call about whether or not this needs to be a bigger guide. This is something that happens a lot on Authority Hacker, maybe not as much on niche sites where we are targeting easier keywords. With a topic as big as golf swing, I might make a call about whether or not this needs to be 3,000 or 4,000 words. If it does, I would just spend another hour and a half beefing this up and going into detail for all these little things that when we were writing, we kind of noticed were a little bit general and were serving more as a setup rather than detailed explanation. It's still good. It's just, it's like B+ A- content, which is kind of what you would expect if you're only going to spend like an hour and a half on it. That said, this is perfectly acceptable for a niche site. And if I decided that it did not need to be beefed up, I think that this is totally fine to post. 1,500 words on the basics of golf swings and addressing a few common mistakes is good. What I would do for sure is I would go find videos for all of this stuff or pictures that I could use with permission, or embeddable pins, or images that I found on search.creativecommons.org that I could use to illustrate this stuff. I might even use like a really simple photo editing software. If I didn't have Photoshop, it might be paint.net, or even just Microsoft Paint, or something like Sketch where I could draw on stuff, and create some simple diagrams. So, if I was doing, say I had like this swing, I could take a screenshot and then draw like a line on the body to talk about, addressing the ball or something. That might not be the best example, but you get what I'm talking about. So I could create some really simple images to help me address these points that we were talking about were difficult to explain because they were mechanical physical processes that might not come across the best in writing. So one of the deficiencies of this article that I know is there that needs to be fixed is it just needs visual aids. Not every article is going to be like that. This article in particular absolutely does need that. So I would spend another 10 or 15 minutes or whatever finding videos, making some really simple images to put in here. If I was going the big guide route, I might even go over to Fiverr and look at I just typed in illustration graphic because it seemed like it was the easiest, and just see what I can get for $5. If someone can make a good graph of like, a golf swing that points out some of the key things I'm talking about, and it can be custom for my site, then that's awesome, right? And that makes us unique. It adds to our authority, and it's probably worth $5. So if I was investing in a big guide, that would probably be worth the money. Overall, I hope this helped you see my thought process when I'm writing an informational article. I hope that one of the things you take away is that it is a flexible process, and I'm not necessarily following a brief exactly. I am doing some good research using like this crazy tab approach. I'm seeing what would or what an article might look like and how it might be broken down. I'm doing that in the research phase, and then while I'm researching or while I'm actually writing it, I'm making decisions on the fly. Like, for example, I decided that when we were talking about the swing, that I didn't need to spend much time on this. I'm going to let other people cover that, and instead I'm going to talk about, I'm going to give people the basics. I'm going to talk about a few common mistakes and how to fix them, and I'm going to do that in the context of all this other stuff, and that's how I'm going to add value. So instead of going into detail for each one of these things, we're going to say, like, okay, this is what a good golf swing is. What does it mean in the context of a good grip, good posture, and impact position? And that's the angle of our article. So it's flexible, and you do have to make decisions, and it's not paint by number, and it's not always cut and dry, and sometimes you're going to have to make calls, make concessions, make sacrifices, or go find more information. All right, guys, hope this helped. Maybe we can even publish this and let you see it, but if you have any questions, let me know in the comments.